We don't look like complete idiots.
I think it's too late for that, buddy.
Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna start with the most blatant and horrible inconsistency. This scene with her and the Huntsman when he explains that she's gonna have to kill somebody maybe, and she can't. And then all of a sudden she's a bad warrior slaying people. I'm just like, what? That's just one of the things. Oh my gosh. What about the fact that the montage at the beginning where they explain her whole childhood and everything was as much story as the rest of the movie? The plot points could have been explained in 15 minutes and I would have been more happy about that. It was like all this character development and all these scenes and it never made you care about anyone.
I would say that like most of the suck from that movie surprisingly didn't come from Kristen Stewart. I don't really like her face, but like, I don't know, she wasn't like the black hole that sucked everything good out of the movie. But there was a lot about that movie that sucked.
Mainly for me, like the biggest problem with it was that there wasn't enough story and it just dragged on and dragged on.
When I was watching it, I was kind of looking for things that were wrong, and I suppose there were some nitpicky things in there that I could have gotten bent out of shape about, but I think because I really didn't care that much to begin with, they didn't bother me. Like, I can honestly say, watching that movie, I couldn't tell you a single thing I didn't like about it, other than that I'm just not a Kristen Stewart fan. I guess I should rephrase that, because I say didn't like, there weren't things I disliked about it. There was not really anything I liked an awful lot about it either.
I would just say, like, as far as the writing went, was the huge problem with making her this pure vessel, and then, are we doing spoilers?
I'm really trying to avoid spoilers as much as possible. I mean, it's no secret from the preview that she kind of becomes a bad warrior.
She doesn't become one.
Or, okay, excuse me, she
just is one all of a
She
sudden.
just suddenly is one, yeah.
I just got all annoyed at the very beginning when the Queen's brother comes in and she basically seduces him and then violently attacks him. And this is like the most innocent of heart person. I'm just like, come on. Like, was there like a better, more magical way for this to happen?
Did you get the vibe through like the entire movie that it was an interesting idea and kind of a cool story that was just not done right at all?
I gotta say straight up, to somebody who doesn't have a problem with Kristen Stewart and likes fantasy movies, I would probably recommend the movie.
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, it was good. It was boring though.
I didn't find it boring. You know, like I thought I might find it boring. And the whole time I was thinking, you know, yeah, I can't find anything to complain about, but that's because I'm really just not enjoying this at all. But then I'd be like, no, you know what that is? That's my low expectations talking, and the truth is, I'm having an okay time. I'm not bored to tears or anything. I have to say, if I watched it again, I feel like I would be very bored by it. But I wasn't bored by it. I can see what you're saying about the character not matching the prophecy or the way they built it up, so to speak.
Yeah.
But really, the only reason that's a problem is because of the prophecy and the way they built it up. The character was fairly consistent throughout until she suddenly became a warrior queen.
Yeah.
Until that point, she was pretty consistent. I mean, a woman in a desperate situation who, you know, defends herself and does what she has to survive. And had there been a nice transition, I could have seen her becoming a warrior queen or something.
Yeah,
like
well,
that.
she spent so much time with the Huntsman, there could have been more of that, like, development.
I don't know, I think any development like that would have just been corny.
It would have taken too much time and stuff. And
Well, they were
yeah,
obviously searching for time.
Did anybody else think that like the William dude didn't?
Oh.
There was no point. He had no point in the story.
I did have that thought. Yes, while I was watching it, the scene where they had their first talk, all I could think was, there is no reason for this dude to be here other than that he has to sort of be the Prince Charming, you know?
But
like that was the whole thing.
Well,
It's just he was the Prince Charming character, and that was his only role.
But it was like that aspect of the story could have had a lot more put into it. Could have had some like emotional things.
The Prince Charming relationship and all that didn't get the attention that you would have thought it would have gotten, considering that they basically shoehorned the guy in.
There was no point of him being there. It was totally pointless.
But
not
honestly,
to mention the fact his introduction scene was probably the stupidest. Both of his
all right. You know what?
So stupid.
I will concede that. Those introduction scenes were really
It was
dumb.
like the whole rest of the movie was made, and then they were like, oh, we gotta throw this guy in here, let's just come up with something. Put the third assistant writer on it or some like that. And it just ended up sucking.
Quick! Call Zack Snyder to do some B-roll. Yeah, he was just unnecessary. But again, didn't bother me that much, and I think it's because I really didn't get myself invested in the movie.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a glowing review by any stretch of the imagination. But it didn't piss me off like the stuff in Avengers pissed me off. Because I was invested there. So when stuff started annoying me, it really started annoying me in a big, big way. In this case, nah, not at all. It was so middle of the road that I actually ended up having a good time most of the time. Because expectations were so low.
I think it was exactly what I was expecting. It was very well shot, well animated.
Yeah, the cinematography. No, I'm sorry. There were some moments where the computer animation looked terrible.
Only on the animals, and that's because animals always look like
that. Okay, I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but right at the end, there was some computer animation that was just abysmally bad.
The final transformation, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
No.
Yeah. And that looked startlingly like because the other transformations looked unbelievable. And then the most important one looks like
and it looked terrible.
That was odd. That was very odd. But by that point, the movie was basically over.
Didn't it just feel like there were two different people working on this film? One person who was talented and one person who couldn't find his with both hands. I mean, there was some really good cinematography in that.
That's what I feel like the whole thing was about. Well, we need these cinematic shots. Let's add this shot. Whole scenes of the Queen, and it's okay, it's character development about how evil she is or whatever. But it's we saw the same scene of her 6 times.
Yeah.
Doing something really spectacular and evil looking, but kind of strangely beautiful. And it's oh, okay, 5 times is enough.
This was a very visual movie, and from that perspective, they nailed the visuals in a lot of ways.
But you need story with visual.
I'll give you that it got very redundant at times.
I just felt
it felt like the opposite of the Lord of the Rings to me, where it was there's so much story to be told that they were
just slicing off left and right.
This was well, it's not quite an epic yet. Let's add another scene.
This was a story that could be told in 10 pages.
Exactly.
The entire story is 10 pages long in any fairy tale book you can find.
A movie like The Lord of the Rings, which I think is a great fantasy movie, maybe except for the end of Return of the King.
Yeah, they crossed some lines.
But you appreciated the really cinematic scenes in those movies because you know how much story had to be told, and so it was you could respect the vision and the time they took to put a really beautiful scene in. Where in this, you just felt like they were just trying to add screen time to the thing.
I just felt like there was so much stuff. They were just well, we need to put this in there, and there's this really corny thing that didn't fit with the tone of the rest of the movie. It was just.
Let's rate it.
All right. Bottom line ratings. Let's hear them.
I'm gonna give it a 4.
Whoa.
5 is total ambivalence.
Totally
no
ambivalent. Yeah, I am totally on the wrong side of that. I did not like this movie. I would say I am definitely on the wrong side.
I'm gonna say I'll go with a 5. I'll give it a 5.5 just because I feel like there are people that should go see it and are going to appreciate it or whatever for the visual aspects or whatever. I don't know. I get a 5.5. I did care about some of the scenes. There were some really well shot scenes.
You know what the thing is? I think I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum because for the first 30 minutes of the movie, I really liked it. I was really enjoying it, and I wanted it to be a great fantasy movie because I love fantasy movies. And then it just fell apart, and it just started to suck worse and worse. And by the end of it, I was just done. I was out.
What's yours?
I go 5.5. It left me feeling fairly ambivalent, but even though it didn't have a big effect on me, I know for a fact I'm going to recommend this movie to people who would like a fantasy movie. I'm going to recommend this to anybody who is thirsting for some fantasy, old school fantasy, not like Harry Potter where it's kind of like modern world mixed with some fantasy, but like some old swords and sorcery fantasy. I'm going to recommend it to anybody who likes that kind of movie, with the caveat, it's not great.
Did anybody else think that the final shot of the movie went on forever?
Yeah, it went on a little long.
Yeah. Well, that explains the whole movie to me. Every shot went on forever, I thought.
That movie could have had 20 to 30 minutes shaved off it without losing anything.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I wasn't bored. I was not bored at any point during the movie. At the same time,
I was so bored.
No desire to visit it again ever.
Disgusted.
Yeah, no desire. I'm giving it the 0.5 above 5 just because I think there are some people that should see it.
I'm almost tempted to go 6 with it, just because I know there's no question that I would definitely recommend it to people who like fantasy movies. Provided I gave them the disclaimer, it's not on the level of your better fantasy movies.
No, not even.
But it's not abysmally bad. Yeah, I'm going to rate... No, it's 5.5. It's 5.5.
Yeah.
Definitely a 4.
All right.
Bye.